I'm going to create a SD card holder that'll come in handy for the 3D printer. And I made a little prototype of what it looks like. There'll be slots where you can stick the SD cards in, and there's going to be actually some magnets on the back. So what I did is I created a little prototype so I can figure out what the right sizes are, and then I drew a little sketch so I know all my dimensions. And we'll make this in Onshape and 3D print it. So when you go into Onshape, you're going to create a document. And we'll start out by every object you create starts out with a sketch. And so first you're going to pick where you want to draw the sketch. I'll have my sketch on the top plane. So I'll click Sketch, click on the top plane. And I can draw right now, but it's kind of awkward looking at it at an angle. So I'm going to click on top here and we'll look straight down onto the top plane. So I'm clicking on Center Point Rectangle, and I'll start by drawing a rectangle. Oops, it clicked off. There we go. Okay, first I'm just going to draw a rectangle, and what we can do now is click a dimensioning tool to make the rectangle the right size. According to my sketch, I wanted this 36 millimeters, and I wanted this to be, let's start with 76 and see how that looks. Oops, I hit Control Z there to undo that. Click on this. This one, 76 millimeters. We can change these later, so double click on that, fix that back again. There we go. Okay, so now we have the dimensions that I want. These constraints are very, very useful, and we'll look at those a little bit more later. So this right now, if I click on check, this is just, I'm holding the right mouse button and I'm scrolling around looking at, this is just flat as a pancake. We need to give it some depth. And so that's what the extrude tool does. Click on extrude, click on this, and you can mark how deep you want it to be. I only want it to go up 7 millimeters, according to my prototype, and hit OK. And we have ourselves a box. Once again, I'm holding the right mouse button and moving my mouse around to scroll and pan like this. You can always click on this to go back to some standard view. To zoom in and out, I'm moving the wheel on the mouse in and out. Okay, let's go back to the top view. Well, actually, before we do that, I'm going to make the slots for the SD cards to go in. And I'm not going to draw it on the bottom plane. I'm going to draw it on this top surface of this. So I hit Sketch and click on the top surface. So now I'm going to be drawing my rectangles on this surface. We'll go back to top view. We're going to look straight down on this. And we'll create another rectangle. And again, I'm still using center point rectangle. And here we go. You don't have to stop and use the different dimensioning tools, although it is handy. You can just type in the dimensions when you first create an object. So I wanted this to be 2.5 millimeters wide and 25 millimeters deep. And I want 4 of these. And instead of drawing these over and over again, there's a tool that'll create a linear pattern. So I click on that, click on the objects that I want to, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, to repeat. And it says I'm making 3 of these and going across. I'll double click on that to make it 4 of them. And here's where I get to specify how far apart they are. Again, my prototype, I think I wanted 15. Let's take a look at that. And there are 4 evenly spaced rectangles. So right now it shows that I should click on the left mouse button to finish this. Now these aren't centered correctly. So I want to make them centered about this middle line. And so there is a constraint that we can use. This says we can make things symmetric. So this tells us what to do. We click on this, and I want to make this and this symmetric about this axis. So I clicked on those three things and I moved things over. So no matter how big we make this or move things around, these things will always be mirrored, essentially mirrored along the y-axis here. So these are going to be the holes where the SD card goes in. And right now we have to take the material out of these holes. This is also an extrude. So when we extrude, it defaulted to either adding material or adding a new part. But in this case, instead of adding a material, we're going to remove material. Now I removed way too much. The whole thing was 7 millimeters deep, and I think I only want to go down. Let's only leave maybe 1 millimeter on the bottom. It doesn't need to be that strong. So let's actually go down 6 millimeters. And now this has cut out the slots that we need for our SD cards. Okay, and it did not cut all the way through. Okay, so let's now go to the bottom and make the holes for where we want to stick the magnets. Now this one, we could have drawn the holes at the beginning because I do want to draw the holes on the same plane as where we drew the box to begin with. By the way, to move things around like this, I'm holding the mouse wheel in and dragging the mouse. So click the mouse wheel straight in. If you spin the mouse wheel, it goes in and out. Once again, the right button spins it around so I can look around. And you can always go to some standard view this way. Okay, so what I want to do is, I guess instead of just drawing the rectangle on the bottom on the very first sketch, I wanted to draw a rectangle with some circles. So let's double. Well, first of all, we can let's double click on the sketch again. We can edit the sketch. So let's go to top view again, and I want the two circles where I want to put the magnets, and I know the magnets are 5 millimeters in diameter. By the way, in the 3D printer, I probably have to make things a little bit bigger than exactly 5. So I'll double click on this and make it, let's say 5.2. Just give it a tiny bit more room to be able to fit the magnet in. Now this one, I don't need to use the repeat tool. I just want another one exactly like this over here. And this, we can actually use the mirror. I'm going to mirror this object about this line, and this is the object, so it makes another object. And let's also position it. So I'm going to click from here to there. I want that distance, maybe a little bit farther in from the edge. I don't know, maybe 5.5. Let's try a little more, 6. Okay, so what happened here is it did draw those, but you notice that when it extruded the very beginning, when it made this first box, it did not extrude these. So let's go back and edit this next extrude. So the extrude, oops-a-daisy. The extrude didn't include these holes, but I do want to make those solid because I don't want the holes to go all the way through. So if I just click on those holes, it'll fill those holes. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to go back and make another extrude to make the holes. So here we go. First of all, the sketch, the very first sketch, I do need to see that. It's hidden right now, so I'll click on OK. I'm going to click on the eyeball so now I can see it. I can still see it. And I'll make one more extrude where we can take these holes out, and we're going to remove material from this. Looks like, look at the remove is trying to go down. Well, I'm upside down. It's trying to go down, so we can switch the direction, have the remove go up. And the magnets are only 3 millimeters thick, deep, so I'll click 3 there. So now we have holes. Let me hit OK here. We have holes on the bottom, and we have, I think we're almost done. Okay, one thing of interest is that, let's say we decide later on that maybe this is a little too big. I don't quite need that. I don't quite need it that big. So what I'm going to do is go back to the original sketch, click on 76, and let's make that 72 instead. everything adjusts. This thing got smaller. These things went in closer. The 5.2 was, I mean, the radius is still the same, but there's still 6 millimeters in. So this is the wonderful thing about CAD is that you can go back and tweak things. Okay, now let's just pretty it up. This is almost done. I just want to round off the corners. I'm going to go to the fillet tool and let me click on these edges. It's rounded quite a bit. Why not? Let's keep it that way. And I don't know. I think that looks a little bit too goofy. Let me try just, let's say 3 millimeters instead. I kind of like that a little better. Let me keep on going. I'm going to round off this edge as well. And that should be that. Okay, when it comes time to 3D print it, everything looks good. We have a part. We're going to right click, export the part. And we're going to export an STL file, leave it binary, units are in millimeters, and export away. And this is what's going to be taken into Cura to slice and then put in the 3D printer. And the part came out perfect. So the SD cards fit in there, and there are magnets on the bottom to hold it onto the 3D printer.